Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on Toned In Entertainment where we love pop culture. Today, it's time for another comic book series review. And for this one, well, we're gonna have to go way back in time, but we're also gonna have to go out of this world as I break down the 5-issue series of Mars Attacks, Red Sonja. And of course, we have to kick it off properly with taking a look at issue number 1. As the story unfolds, there is setup of what looks like present day, as this was the day that Mars attacked. Now that story will have to wait because the real focus of this series will take place during the Hyborian Age. Now at the very some time, just some 140 million miles away on Mars, the Martian technology is advanced way beyond our barbarian ancestors. The Emperor of Mars, while having a very advanced civilization, is also a peaceful civilization. But his chief science advisor, Xir, has a different view on how the Martians shall live, and that's by conquest. Xir will lay out his proposed plan to explore Earth as a mission of exploration and peace. And while the Emperor is positive that Xir has an ulterior motive, he just finds it safer for him to get rid of this menace before he gets stabbed in the back. Now, when I started reading this series, I was wondering how much buildup there would be until Mars attacks, but writer John Layman definitely wasn't playing around, because by page 9, one of the locals from Brizadin runs towards Red Sonja saying, "Listen to me, run away. If you want to live, turn around and run for your life." This man will not be alone in fleeing, as there will be a small group of villagers, as well as Jarek, who's leading up the retreat and watching over more than just their cargo, which includes more than just supplies, but the one and only royalty that is left alive after the Martian slaughter, Princess Meridian. Now these two groups will have little time to get to know one another, as one of the aliens riding a giant bug shows off some of their wonderful technology from their red planet. And while on paper it would seem that the Martians would have an advantage, Red Sonja has no issue showing them how powerful her sword is. Now after this menace was slayed, Red Sonja will join up with the Brizadin locals, as she believes that there is safety in numbers. And when it comes to numbers, they will definitely need them, because the little green men have plenty of soldiers with high-tech weapons, and Xir will not hesitate to unleash a fury on these primitive barbarians and their warrior woman leader. Now we learned in issue number 1 that the Martian Emperor really wanted Xir gone because he knew he couldn't be trusted. And here, right off the top, in issue number 2, we're going to get some insight as to why that was. Now we know that Emperor of Mars wanted Xir gone because he knew that he could not be trusted, and right off the bat here in issue number 2, we get some insight into just how corrupt the Martian science advisor is, as he tells his Martian troops how the Earthlings once came to Mars and it was Earth who attacked their home planet, showing no mercy, and the entire planet was laid to waste. Now this would be horrible if it were true, but Xir has completely fabricated this story to give his troops the ammunition for Mars to attack. Throughout issue number 2, Red Sonja knows that their battles with the aliens is far from over, and it's in her best interest to train the villagers for battles, starting with Princess Meridian. But this princess is severely lacking not only in confidence in her ability to lead, but as a fighter. And to get the results Red Sonja will want from the princess, it's going to require a little bit of trickery. Now as the two continue to train, the Sonja and the princess's minds will not be playing tricks on them, as a creature leaps out of the dark. Actually, I should be more specific, as it's a creature and 4 of his buddies. And as Sonja goes to square off with these 5 troublemakers, a voice is heard yelling, "Stop!" And it's Jarek who's insisting that they cease all these hostilities. When Jarek finds out that Sonja has begun training the princess, he's outraged and tells Sonja that Princess Meridian is royal born, not some grubby sword for hire. She is a girl in training to be a lady, a defined royalty. Swordplay is beneath her. But Sonja has no issue reminding Jarek of how many ladies have fallen to the green-skinned invaders, and that in times like this, it's less important to be a lady and more important to be a survivor, and that her training was going good till these idiots stuck their nose in her business. And that's when Jarek tells her these idiots are our friends. Now while Jarek is happy to have some new allies, he thought the leader of the pack, Farrowin, was going to bring along a few more helping hands. But Farriwen says the green creatures with all their crazy technology had the others scared, and these are all the brave soldiers they could muster. Now Sonja has her reservations about the troops that Farriwen has brought, especially when it comes to Ferrix. Now Jarek will plead with Sonja to come with them on their journey because as long as the princess is still alive, the wizard conqueror can't claim the throne. Now Sonja and the resistance will make their journey and end up at Crow's Cross, where they believe this place will be a safe harbor for the princess. But Jarek suggests to still tread carefully because you never know if the wizard Exir has allies hidden amongst them. Now as the princess's passage arrangements won't be ready till the next day, they will have to find a place to rest for the night. And that's when Durin chimes in that he knows a place that is safe, it just might cost them a few more coins. Now Sonja's original deal was to come with them just to Crow's Cross, but she's decided it might be best if she continues to keep a close eye on Her Majesty. As Durin and Sonja accompany the princess to a safe room, Sonja asks him how he got involved in all of this. He tells her it's merely a way of making some money. Now as the trio enters this so-called safe room, Red Sonja and the princess, well, they're about to get the royal screw job, as Durin says. Funny thing though, since we're discussing wage journey, turns out gold paid by the greenies spends every bit as well as Jarek's, and they offered more of it too. Now Sonja will make quick work of the little green man that stand in her way. And as she sets her eyes on extracting revenge from Durin's betrayal, she's caught in the clutches of one of the finest examples of Martian science and body modification. Now Durin goes on to tell Sonja while Exir does want the princess, he's actually offering more for her. And that reason is that Exir is looking for a queen and wants her for marriage. Now as issue number 3 opens, we are once again going to be transported to present day as something crazy is going on, but once again, that story will have to wait. Now we get some insight into a variety of the bizarre genetic manipulation that Exir has been practicing, and also just how relieved the Martian Emperor was to get rid of this nuisance, and how Exir turned what he had told the other Martians was an exploration mission into one of conquest. And even though Exir hasn't been able to fully take on the title of king, that won't stop his experiments from continuing. Now as Sonja is strapped down here to the table, the next big experiment that Exir will take part in will be the experiment of marriage. And with the traitor Durin right by Exir's side, she asks him how he could betray the princess just for some extra gold. And that's when Durin reveals that it was more than just gold, but greatness, as Durin has become the latest volunteer of one of Exir's crazy Martian experiments. With no time to waste, Exir gives Sonja the shock of her life so that the wedding preps can begin. The story will pick up later under what was formerly known as the catacombs beneath Castle Brizadin, which is now known as Castlexier. Inside the dark catacombs sits the princess, but she won't be alone for long as a beaten down Sonja is tossed in with her. As the princess goes over to check on Sonja, she uses this as a distraction to attack the Martian guards, but it will be this time that the alien invaders will get the upper hand. And the only reason they haven't finished her off for good is because their master still has use for her. Now once the guards leave, the princess tells her that trying to fight the guards wasn't the smartest thing, but Sonja will reveal that the reason why she did was because they weren't expecting her to fight, nor were they expecting her to swipe their magical tool, as she calls it, to make their escape. Now thankfully for Red Sonja, the princess does know how to navigate these caves. She is also confident that with a weapon and the training from Sonja, she can be of help, which is also great. The only problem is they are going to run into two of Exir's massive science experiments. Now with their backs literally against the wall, it looks like it might be certain doom for the princess and Sonja. That is until a blade to one of the giant aliens proves that one of them isn't very headstrong and the other might be heartless. Now who is it that comes to their rescue? Well, it will be none other than Jarek and Ferrix. While Jarek gives some info on how they were able to infiltrate the tunnels and rescue them, he has insisted that time for small talk is over, that Xir has every intention of putting on a public execution of the princess so he can claim his throne. Now before they take off, Sonja tells Ferrix that he should no longer live in mystery, that he is around friends and should show his face. And as soon as Sonja flips his cloak back, it's revealed that Ferrix is one of the alien invaders, which of course will send Red Sonja into a fit of rage. Now before she can do much damage, Jarek jumps in and tells her that Ferrix is a friend and wants to bring down Xir, that while Ferrix might look like one of the enemies, he's loyal to the Martian emperor of his home planet. And it was after not following the orders of Xir that Ferrix became one of his test subjects. Now that we have that squabble out of the way, a revelation is made as to what the true intentions Xir has for Red Sonja, as Ferrix tells her that she is misunderstood. No Martian would ever marry a human. By their standard, they are far too hideous. But Sonja questions back with, he told her that she would make a splendid wife. And that's when it's revealed that Sonja would make a great wife and that Xir is using her genetic material to make one. Now back at the castle, Durin informs Xir about the escape that has occurred, but he shakes it off as a minor inconvenience, because now his new wife, the Green Sonja, has arisen, and her first mission will be to destroy the Red. Now going into issue number 4, guys, you better buckle up your seatbelts because this is gonna be one wild ride. As this issue opens, Red Sonja is slicing and dicing her way through the Martians. But now it's time to get to the showdown between Red Sonja and that impersonator, Green Sonja. Now, if I was a betting man, I would definitely put my money on the original. Green Sonja will suggest that Red Sonja and her allies surrender, but that is not an option. And that response was predicted by Green Sonja, as she knows just how deep her fighting spirit is, because after all, she is fused with the same DNA courtesy of Xir. The battle between the two will wage back and forth, and it's a fight of epic proportions. And it will be on this day and in this very battle that Red Sonja has taken her last breath, because she has fallen to the blade of the Green Sonja. With Red Sonja defeated, her compadres, including the princess, will have no other option than to surrender. And the Green Sonja will ride off with the head of Red Sonja hanging as a trophy piece. Now in the middle of this issue, there is some backstory on how the night before, Red Sonja continued her training with the princess, and how exactly the Martians were able to get the upper hand by unleashing all their technological advances on the humans. And that's when Xir saw the opportunity and released Green Sonja to attack. However, the story of Red Sonja might not be a closed chapter, because as you can see down here, the Red Sonja is still alive. However, she's about to once again go under the experimental thumb of Xir. But this will be no day in the park for our hero, as Xir tells her that when he's done with her, she'd wish she was dead. Now all this is gonna lead us to the 5th and final issue in this comic book crossover, and it looks like all things are pointing to the crowning of King Xir. And what exactly does His Majesty have in order for our hero, Red Sonja? As issue 5 starts, Red Sonja is a partial her, at least from the waist up, but from the waist down she has a stinger attached to her. As she's now known as a she-devil with a stinger she's sent into battle solely for the Martians' amusement. Now you might be saying that Sonja has the deck stacked against her, and what if she doesn't survive? Well, Xir has thought of everything, as he will use the same preservation solution he used to bring her back the first time, and he'll have no issues with using it over and over, tinkering with his recipe. Now this is just Xir's plans for Red Sonja's future, because right now he has to get ready for his wedding with Green Sonja, but it will be here that Green Sonja will begin to see the Green Martians' true colors. Green Sonja tells Xir that she is not fond of his plans for Red Sonja, that she is a warrior and deserves a warrior's death, that it's an insult, an affront to her dignity as a warrior. And Xir does agree with her 100%, and that's exactly why he's doing it. Now, while Green Sonja might look like one of the Martians on the outside, here we're gonna see that her soul is much like Red Sonja, as she tells Xer that he's already won. He'll be all-powerful, that there's no reason for causing more suffering. But Xer will wholeheartedly disagree because he has plans to make Jarek, Princess Merida, and of course, Ferrix the traitor, suffer. However, Ferrix is going to make his voice heard that he is no traitor, that Xer is the one who has deceived his own race, that he took a mission of peace and turned it into an attack. And that's when Xer tells Ferrix that no one will ever know the truth because he will leave nobody alive to tell it. Now, Xer has two very important things to do on this day. Number one, get married, and number two, eliminate the princess, but he still hasn't decided in which order he wants to do these. But as Xer yells out for his lackey Durin, let's just say this backstabber of a human race has been silenced by the blades of both Green and Red Sonja, who has returned to her normal form thanks to Green Sonja picking up a few tricks in the lab watching Xer do his dirty work. Now, as both Sonjas slice and dice their way through Xer's guards, Green Sonja lets it be known that she didn't want to have any part of Xer's corruption and weakness. Now, while these lackey guardsmen seem to be no match for our Sonjas, Xer has one more trick up his sleeve that will give Red Sonja that warrior's death Green Sonja says she's entitled to. But as Xer shoots, it will be Green Sonja who jumps in front, absorbs the blast, and saves Red Sonja. Now, remember earlier in this series when Jarek told Red Sonja that teaching the princess how to fight was beneath her? Well, it's a good thing she picked up a few tricks that Sonja had taught her, as she will be the one to put down the menace Xer for good. Now, while Xer is a goner, unfortunately, so is Green Sonja. But her sacrifice will not go in vain, as Ferrix will have the opportunity to tell his fellow Martians on how they were all duped, and then we'll head back to their home planet where they belong. Now, as this story comes to its conclusion, we will see that Red Sonja will go on to have more epic adventures and will remain a friend to now Queen Merida to her dying day. Now, when issue number 1 started, there appeared to be some type of attack going on in present day, and here on the last 2 issues of this series, we're going to get some more insight as to what was going on. That over the many years, life grew easy for humanity and humans became soft and weak. And meanwhile, over those same many years, the Martian society changed as well, as they abandoned reason for aggression, and it was on this day that Mars attacked. Alright guys, well, my final score for the Mars attack Red Sonja comic book crossover is going to be a very deserving 9.5 out of 10. What a fun and entertaining comic book series. I love how these creators took 2 very different properties and matched them up all together. And even though on paper the little green Martians should have had the major advantage, it will literally be the human soul that will allow our heroes to triumph over the alien invaders. Alright guys, well, that's going to wrap up my comic book discussion / review of Mars Attacks Red Sonja 5-issue comic book series released in 2020. Now, did you guys read this series, or did you know it even existed? Comment down below. And guys, if you like comic book videos like this, make sure you subscribe here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.